Welcome back to art class, and today we're going to be focusing on a style of art that is it's a still life. Almost every major artist does still lifes at some point. One of the artists that's really well known for some tabletop pictures is Paul Cezanne. Paul Cezanne lived about 100 years ago. He died in 1906. So his stuff is a little bit older, but it's still pretty relevant, and so as we go along, you are going to see pictures of his work. We are going to focus on something that's a little bit more timely, our still life project. Normally you'd want the actual object to be in front of you when you did this, but our project is going to be a drawing of a slice of pie. Specifically in my case, I'm going to be drawing the pumpkin pie. Okay? So at some point I'm going to throw up a picture of the pumpkin pie that I am actually drawing. Okay. And so we will have to make some adjustments, but in order to do this, we are going to kind of just work our way through, and I'll show you how the basics of this are done. Okay. For our paper, what I want us to do is you're going to turn it sideways, and you're only going to need three things: the paper, a pencil, and an eraser today. We're just going to focus on the drawing part. This is going to be a 2-week project. I want you to fold it in half the long skinny ways, like this. Don't put a really hard crease in it. This is just so that we have a place to kind of work. The edge of our table is going to be basically right about where that fold is. That's why the fold is there, so we can put a light line right on the fold. Our pie is going to stick up a little bit above the table. So when we do our pie, our 3D, this is going to be 3D-ish too, by the way. So we're going to try to create illusion of 3D. We're going to want the top of our pie to be kind of a triangle shape. And we want to have a big piece. We don't want to shrink it down to make it really small. So this is going to have to be pretty big. And the top corner will go above the line there. This will be curved. And then like that. So you can see that I have now this is your basic shape. Then this is just the top. This is the top of the piece of pie. Then we need, how thick is the pie? And normally you go straight down, but most pies actually kind of tilt inward on the crust, pie crust. And that's mostly because it makes it easier to get them out of the pan when you're cutting it. Okay. Next, we want it to be roughly, so like here I made mine at least, I'd say that's 2, maybe 3 fingers thick. And this needs to be roughly 2 to 3 fingers thick as well, 2.5 to 3 fingers. You want these lines to be roughly the same size. Then I can connect those with a straight line. Now the reality is, if I was cutting a piece of pie, it never looks this nice. I always kind of fall apart, but you know, we're just trying to make it look perfect. The next thing I usually do is I put in a little bit of the crust. The crust is right here around the edge. And it's kind of a bumpy line. And I will even actually adjust the outside edge. I had it perfectly curved just to start off with. Like that. And then flatten it out at the ends because it did get sliced at the end there. Okay, next we're going to want our plate. Now the plate cannot go past the edge of the table here because that wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we're going to want an oval. I know plates are usually thought of as circles, but when you tilt a plate, let me grab a plate here. I got a paper plate. So from this angle, it looks like a circle. But when I begin to tilt it, it gets kind of an oval shape. Okay. Now, did it actually physically change? No, your view of it changed, and that's what makes it look more ovalish. So that is what we need to do. So I need to make an oval. Now, if the tip of the plate goes off the front of the paper a little bit, I'm okay with that. Mine's cutting it really close. See how that would look. See? So if I continued it, I clean up my lines. Yep. Okay, now rarely is a plate just a flat circle, so usually you might have an inner part, because like part of the plate actually sticks up, so it's going to be the inner part. Okay, then I need to start adding items that would be in it. Now again, normally in real life there would be a still life that you'd actually look at, but we are kind of using our imagination, but it will look like a still life. And if you don't know what a still life is, let me give you a reminder. Still life is a picture of objects that would be right in front of you that you were drawing or painting or coloring. Okay. Normally, like you have a vase of flowers, in this case it might be a piece of pie. You're picking things that are not usually living. In the case of flowers, they've been cut. Okay. Well, although some people might drew, ones in pots, but the plants don't get up and move. You want to pick objects that don't have basically movement on their own. They want to be just perfectly still or won't decay very fast. That's why people do fruit or things like that. The paintings would take just a couple of days. You don't want to have a still life that takes months to do. All right. In my case here, I'm going to want a fork. Let's see. I'm going to put my fork off to the side here. And it is going to go off the page. My forks at home have 4 tines, so that's what I'm going to put there. Oh, I also forgot my Cool Whip. I like to have my Cool Whip on there. So this is kind of like a bubble. Because this is kind of like a half circle on top of another circle. I'm not going to make this too complicated. And if you look at this, this is kind of like a big 6 that didn't get completed. So the top of mine has kind of a 6 shape. Now, if you buy fancy pies, maybe they have more Cool Whip in different spots, but me, this would be mine. Or yours, maybe yours is bigger. Maybe you want to make a really big one. In fact, I'll show you how to. It looks exactly the same, but bigger. Maybe you want a really big. So I still have that 6 shape there, and then the half oval circle right there. All right, so the next part, this part we kind of walk through, and I would recommend like replaying that part a couple of times to kind of get the idea how to do it. We did basically a triangle with a rounded back, then we made it how tall I wanted to be, and it was about 3 finger spaces tall, and then made a nice straight line here. Oh, I did forget the crust. because that would be crust back here, and there would be crust at the bottom as well. So I do need to put that in. That looks more like a pie. Okay. Then we have our table, so I'm going to put more of that in. And you're going to need to come up with something for here. Now maybe you want a napkin. So maybe I'll put a napkin in there. Okay. And then in the background, something that makes sense for the background. Maybe you have something in your kitchen that you want back there. So maybe if I was eating this, instead of on a table, if it was a counter, I have this outlet that is right here. I have a window that might be going off the corner. There's a little screw that's right there. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just keep the outlet there. Okay. Yep. Okay. Almost made the face. So this kind of makes more of a complete picture. Okay. So, you know, and then for the outside, maybe I have a little bit of the grass showing. There's a tree that grows out in the backyard that I might be able to see a little bit of. So we're wanting a complete picture. This is where we need to be, is to the 3D thing. Remember, we're folding the paper in half to give us a basic size. We want the pie to be taller than the middle, and then it's okay if the plate goes off the page a little bit. Okay. Then when you're done, get a picture of this to me in Google Classroom, and then I will see you next week to wrap this thing up.